Welcome back. So now I feel that all the groundwork is done. Now we can actually start talking about what we started out with, which is the drop-down list. How do we actually make a drop-down list? That was the goal of all of this. It was that simple, the question that we wanted to do. Well, since now we have all the available person statuses right here, they're red, we need to kind of explain to them what's the important properties inside these to build a drop-down list. And in this case it's the ID and the name. Now let me start out by showing you the actual running drop-down list here, so it's just easier to have something to talk about. So we'll start out by just viewing the HTML of a drop-down list and how that actually looks. So here I'm under the create view, and under the create view I have a drop-down list right here, and that's what I'm talking about. So let me try and just open the developer tools just to show you guys what's actually in here when we look at HTML right now. So what tag are we talking about here? Well, we're actually talking about the select tag. The select tag is how we build a drop-down list inside HTML. And under the select tag there's a list of options. And each option, that's pretty much just the guy you're seeing down here, the different selections you have. That's how simple it is to make a drop-down in HTML, right? But what do we have to do? Well, we have to explain to the system that we have a select tag and we have to explain an ID. Like with any request you make, you have to explain what's the ID the backend should try and catch and use for something, right? So this is what the PersonStatus ID is all about. It's going to be grabbed in, on the backend post request, and I'm going to show you how that is happening as well. But let's start out by just explaining how this is actually built inside the C# code. So let's go back to our controller here. Now when we do a create request, we did a lot of legwork and prepared for us a way using the PersonStatus manager to read all our beautiful person statuses. Now we grab those and put them inside this select list. Think of a select list, it's very simple. It's pretty much just a wrapper class that we can use to build a drop-down list inside Razor, right? So inside the HTML helper classes we can use a select list to build a drop-down. Now it needs 3 parameters. The first thing it needs is it needs to know what's the list. So this is actually the list of all person statuses available. The second thing it needs is the unique identifier for each of these person statuses inside the list. And the last one it needs is what should I display, what property should I display inside the option tags. So let's have a look again at the HTML and I'll try and explain each of these areas for you. So if I go back to my code here, and you'll see here the select tag, well that's only being made once, right? But inside it there's actually option 1, a value of 1, and at home is the text. Now the value equals 1, that's actually the ID. So if I go back here, it knows the value should be 1 because I put in the property ID, which is the unique identifier for a person status, right? Okay, let's go back. The second part is what we put in here, inside the text here, and that's actually the name in our case, because we put in the property name of the person status. And that's all it takes from the controller setup. So we just have to make this select list and put it inside. We put it inside the view bag so we can share it with the view actually, right? But you could do it in other ways. You could pass it into view directly. You can play around with that yourself. But right now the default scaffolded solution, they just added inside the view bag, so now we can grab it out. Remember this name, PersonStatus ID, because now we are moving to the view just to show you that part. So I go down here, I find the view. It's of course under persons because I'm in the persons controller, and it's under views here, under the views folder under persons, right? So I open the create view, and in here you'll see, if I scroll down, there's actually something here called label for person status ID. That's the model that I'm looking for. Now where's that coming from? Well, it's actually coming from the model right now is person, and the person right now, he has a person status ID right here, right? That's because we have a foreign key to the status table or the person status table, right? So that's how that is bound together. So now it knows that it should make a label with, let's just go back and show you again the HTML. It'll make a label here with the actual for person status ID, meaning that this label will work together with this select statement, right? So that's how these two are bound together. The for and the ID here are bound together. That's just some Bootstrap stuff, making it look beautiful and making it so that I can click here or I can click here to do the selection, right? So notice that when I click here, it actually selects the field. When I click here, it actually also selects the drop down. So they're bound together. Okay. Now the second part is the actual drop down list, and this is how simple it is to make a drop down list. I'll show you another solution soon, but For a drop-down list here, you can just add a person status ID and, again, magic. Microsoft says, I can't find a person status ID anywhere, so let me look in the view bag. Is there a person status ID in the view bag? Well, I guess there is. I'll just grab that select list and put it in there. Not only that, I'll create a select tag for you. So going back, I'm creating a select tag for you and I'm adding the ID of person status and the name of person status. Pretty fancy stuff. I'm using that select tag and then I'm adding in a class because you ask it to add a class of form control just to make it shiny. And the last thing I'm doing is I'm taking the select list and for each of the different person statuses, I'm going to make an option with a value of 1 or the ID and a name of at home or the name of the different person statuses, right? That's all it takes. And now I have my select list. Now, next lesson we'll try and see what happens when we create this guy and what we'll post back to the server. See you in the next lesson.